Well, good evening. The silly season continues. And tonight we're going to talk to somebody who's stepping up to help us at the library. And I'd say a pretty good shoo-in for election.
I certainly hope so.
Why don't we start with an introduction?
My name's Jennifer DeMontion.
Jen, normally I'd start off with why should I vote for you, but I think it's pretty safe.
Well, I would hope that you would vote for both candidates as we're both running, and that's a very important part of our process to make sure that we're all involved.
I have to thank you for stepping up.
Thanks.
Because too many people talk about how things should be, how if I was there, and then you say, well, why aren't you? Well, when you look, why do you want to serve as a trustee of the library?
Well, I've always wanted to be involved in my town. I mean, I've lived here my entire life.
Farmers market, I mean, that isn't enough?
No, it's not. I would say that I got really concerned about my town about 4 years ago when I had my daughter. And the things that I get involved with are the things that are really important. You know, the farmers market, it's really important, but the library is important for so many more reasons. It's a cornerstone of our community. It's a cornerstone for literacy. It breaks socioeconomic barriers. It's there for everybody. So it has to be important, and it has to be kept alive and relevant, not only today in our world, but for my daughter's generation and her children's generation, that it has to be here. So I want to make sure that that happens one way or another.
And staying current, staying relevant is so important. I mean, when I think about the old library where you would go in and Poppy was sitting at the front desk and God help you with the ruler. Yep. If you made a noise.
Don't even think about gum.
Oh, God, no.
No.
God, oh. And you go into the one little room where you could study.
Things have changed immensely in a very short period of time. I mean, there's been a lot of big changes, even between my generation and now. You know, we didn't have computers to look up books. We had the old card files. I mean,
Dewey Decimal
System, which I don't even know if they teach anymore. I really hope they do.
I didn't know we ever figured it out. You always found somebody who knew it.
Yeah, you got your own system within the Dewey Decimal System, but now we have all this technology. So we just have to make sure that we stay relevant for the people who maybe haven't caught up, for the people who are already in it, and for the coming technology that we haven't even seen yet that's going to make it even better.
Well, I mean, realistically, well, let me ask you. I know how I feel, but how do you think the town is doing in supporting the library?
I think we're doing an okay job. I think we're keeping up with it. I think we have good plans for it. I think we could use a little bit more support. I mean, who couldn't?
Yeah.
You know, we need more money for schools. We need more money for the library. We need more money for the roads. There's always going to be. But I think we're doing a pretty good job. We have some really great resources within our library. I would like to see those put out to the public a little bit more, just because I don't think everybody knows about all of the resources the library has. I mean, for example, I don't like to take books out physically. I'm a tablet girl now. I've moved into that, but I know that there are some trustees that didn't even know we had the Overdrive app available through the Milford Library website, where you can take out books 24/7 with just your library card and a tablet, and you can read them on your Nook or your whatever the other app is. I use Nook, you know. So if my trustees,
Kindle or Nook,
Kindle, Nook, you know, like if my trustees don't know about it, then how many other people don't know about it? So is there a better way we can get that out to the public and get it utilized more, so that more people are utilizing not only the physical books in the library, but the technological aspects of it that lend itself so much to.
Well, I mean, if you look at what we just went through, not long ago, I felt pretty good that while some of the towns around us were struggling to keep the library open,
We were never there.
we went a $1.4 million expansion.
Exactly.
And then Ms. Sue came back and said that, hey, by the way, a lot of people are now doing what Jennifer does. They come in with all these electronic devices,
How do we capitalize on it? Yep.
and all of a sudden we learn that they want electricity. And we're not set up to have all these people running cords, which is just not safe, number one.
Yep.
But there's just not enough outlets.
Exactly.
So we just put in, a substantial amount of
The
money
drops, didn't we?
to put in the power poles and sort of reconfigure the library.
And I think we're doing a fantastic job. I do. I mean, and like you said, there are a lot of towns around struggling. I mean, we're doing a really good job, especially in consideration around us. But no matter how good a job you're doing, you can always be doing a little bit better.
And you think about the library. My daughters grew up with that nice woman with the white hair that reads to me.
Oh, God, yeah.
You think about how many hours that we would go into the children's section and just park yourself with your daughter and listen to someone or whoever read a book to you.
And it hasn't changed much. I got to tell you, Maddie, my daughter Maddie loves it. She lives for walking. We live literally across the street from the library. She loves walking over there and having story time, the trick or treat events, all of that. It's just.
But that was one of the special things because it created a bond to the library. So that the kids felt comfortable. And when they heard library, it wasn't, oh, I got to go there and get a book.
I think that's the difference in Milford, is that we have staff that does an extraordinary job in welcoming the citizens of Milford and some citizens from other towns into the library and making it a place where they can go on their lunch hour and pick up a book or read the newspaper or check out a periodical. Or it's never been, I have to be quiet, I can't chew gum.
Miss Poppy will yell at me.
Yeah, you'll get yelled at if you're loud, but at the same time, it was always a very welcome place where you could not only read books and gain knowledge, but you could also, have a study group in one of the quiet rooms. You could have a meeting in one of the downstairs rooms. There's so
and
much.
when I grew up, if I asked for help, even the people you're the most scared of, she was the first one to jump up and get you the book or help you.
There was never a question that went unanswered.
But now you look and you say, change is almost required just to stay current.
I don't think the people need to change. I don't think the attitude needs to change. And even, we're never going to get to a point where there isn't a need for a library, whether or not everything went digital, because nothing will ever go 100% digital. There are going to be stalwarts like me who say I need a paper book. So it's, but they're not, I don't think you need to change the people.
The library as a book center, to me, is an old concept. As a media center, as a gathering place, as a learning spot. You talk about hot spots for your electronic gear. Well, the library to me is an educational hot spot.
Absolutely, it is. That's the perfect way of putting it. Because whether it's digital media, physical books, computers, old slide projector, microfiche, which I remember, no matter what's there, it's still the gathering place, and it's the biggest tool that any person has. That's absolutely free to them. You don't have to pay money to go into the library.
And when I hear that the kids go over there after school to socialize, I guess I don't feel that's like a really bad thing.
No, it's not.
Wait a minute, let's see. So you're taking a whole group of elementary young kids who by definition have much too much energy. God bless them.
Yes, they run up and down my neighborhood. I know well.
And you're putting them in an environment where they're learning to respect the rules. And oh my God, they're probably learning something while they're there. No. Why should I feel that's bad?
I don't know why anyone should. Because there's always going to be different types and different groups of kids. There's going to be the group of kids that goes to the Milford Youth Center that wants to play sports and do that kind of socialization. And there's the kids that want to go to the library and hang out in whichever corner they can hang out with and read magazines and chat and talk about the day and maybe pick up a book that they weren't going to pick up if they had gone elsewhere. Not that the Milford Youth Center is a bad thing. I think it's a fantastic resource, but it's having
And it
that.
has its place.
Everything has its place. So I don't see why it's bad to have kids socializing. I think they might need a little bit of guidance.
Sure.
But I don't see a downside to them being there in any way, shape, or form.
Well, no, and I mean, now the stigma. I mean, when we went there, we were the nerds.
Yes.
You know, everybody
Geeks,
looked at you, the
nerds.
geeks, nerds.
What are you
And
doing?
all of a sudden, the Big Bang Theory comes, and it's okay to be a nerd.
It's okay to be Sheldon nowadays. It's not okay to be Sheldon 20 years ago.
You know, it was a safe place, not physically, but just you could go in and just chill for an hour or two,
No
pick
one
up a
asked-
book.
Yep.
Nobody cared what you were doing as long as you were behaving.
No, there were no questions asked. It wasn't. And it still is. And that's a great thing. It's a great thing to have in your community. And you can. The best part of it is you can translate it throughout your life. You have the Milford Library now until you're 18, and then you graduate and you go to college. And oh, lo and behold, I don't know of any college that doesn't have a library.
Yeah.
So if you learn to love just being there and just having that safe environment, you can translate it throughout your whole life. And that's a good thing. As far
Now,
as I'm concerned. Maybe
the staff is unique. The board you're stepping into seems unique.
Mm-hmm.
Because we hear that the board works more directly with employees than most boards.
I think it takes it more into consideration. It has more feedback, and like you said, more direct interaction.
How do you
with.
balance that now? So you've got your management that's supposed to be working with the employees.
And you're supposed to be working with the
with the
management.
management.
Right. It's a very fine line, and I think part of why the board needs to be a cohesive group that has the same goals is that if you're doing your job and you're setting policies correctly, the interactions will all be about the same thing, and there really won't be any huge conflict, and any huge conflict can be easily resolved through management. It may be a little unique, but I don't see unique as a bad thing. As long as the board is setting policies and they have a very strong library director, if you're interacting with staff, then as a group, there shouldn't be any conflict that can't be resolved.
Well, no, that makes sense. If you're working
And
through
morale
your, your director and the director and the board are in sync.
If everybody's in sync, I mean, that's the goal, isn't it? It's really
Absolutely.
The goal should be for everybody to be on the same page with the same goals and to keep morale high, because that's what it's about. If you have unhappy staff, then you're going to have an unhappy library director, you're going to have unhappy patrons, and you're going to probably have an unhappy board.
And it's going to be harder and harder to get money.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, the town meeting, the FinCom, residents in general were not immune to feedback.
You shouldn't be.
When we hear about all the good things going on at the library,
Right.
it makes it a little easier in my mind to come up with the few extra pennies that you need for certification.
Exactly.
And if all you heard was bad things,
You don't want to hear bad things. I don't know anybody who wants to hear bad things. So instead of, why should it get to that point anyways?
well, no, but
You need to have a good process.
it feels great that when I think of the library, the old next door, and
Memorial Hall?
Memorial Hall, and you think of walking in that, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a warm, happy feeling.
Exactly.
You ask my daughters, and they remember book reading and going there and just hanging out, my daughters and I for a couple hours.
Yeah. On a Saturday afternoon.
Whatever,
Or whatever
or
day.
night when
Yeah.
someone would read a book.
Yeah.
And I think it's easier for them to relate when they got to college that going to the library is a good thing because they already had a foundation built.
Right. We have a very strong foundation, and you get it from here because it's always warm. So that's what the board needs to strive for, the library director needs to strive for, and the staff needs to strive for. And as long as all three are on the same page, and if you're not on the same page, then you need to work to get on the same page. There shouldn't be dissent, and there shouldn't be bad feelings in any way, shape,
At
or
least
form.
we shouldn't see it.
No,
I mean,
no.
when you're working with any board,
Exactly.
inside the room,
You
mean-
can yell at me all you want.
you know, at the FinCom, you know, it's always funny when people say, well, you go to town meeting and everybody agrees on everything. I said, you haven't seen the 5 months in quiet rooms where we didn't agree.
You have to
get
have
there.
that, though.
Sure.
There's always a dissent. There's always, you have to do give and take, because somebody may not see something the way you do, and vice versa.
Oh,
And
I can see it because I know that left to my own devices,
oh yeah,
I wouldn't spend enough. I wouldn't. I would
Okay.
always be tucking money away, worried about the future.
and that's not a bad thing.
No, but
But
you want somebody on the other side maybe spending more than I think is, you know, appropriate, so that somewhere in the middle,
yeah,
I know I'm too far over here. Some people are too far over there. Somewhere in the middle, that's the magic of Milford. It all seems to work out.
we get there eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what we are arguing about, you argue about the casino, you argue about the farmer's market, you argue about the money. We start, I'm here, you're there, and in the end, we get to a happy
Well,
middle.
yeah. I mean, the farmer,
It's
I
just-
never could figure, okay, you can't have it at the town hall, we'll throw you down the water, and it's like, but it was never, it doesn't seem like there's a debate of whether we should have it.
No, right, exactly. So it's just a matter of working out the details, and it's the same thing across the board. It's just whether or not you can get to the middle. And as long as you have people who are willing to move from their right or left
Yeah, I
position.
can't have an opinion because I'll get in trouble. Because I'll say, move the farmer's market anywhere, but no broccoli. Because then they'll be brought home and I'll have to eat the broccoli. But
All right, well, now we know not to sell broccoli.
when you look at the library, have you had a chance to kind of dig in and say, I think a couple of the biggest challenges are going to be?
I think one of the biggest challenges is staying relevant, because it seems that, and it's nothing on anybody in the library's fault, it's just that there seems to be a pull away from the library kind of model, not because of the library, just people are not flocking to it like they used to. So I think we need to get more out there in the community. I think we need to make it more accessible, or at least let people know that it is accessible. We may not need to change anything at all, other
Sure.
than what we're saying to people, and you know, is the website conducive to actually getting to where you need to go? But we have to make sure that the generation that is in the school now, or in the schools now, and then including the ones that are coming up, that literacy is relevant to their lives, that they understand how important it is, and they understand how safe and warm and happy and good the library is. Because that's kind of, and it has, like I said, it's by no fault of our library director or the staff. It's just the way the world works. We get too busy and we don't see it as...
I see that as probably the biggest issue that Miss Sue and crew have to fight is, when you think about it, when we were kids, now you're too young, back in the Stone Age when I was
yes.
young, you didn't know any single family parents.
Exactly.
Now all of a sudden I think about it, and I have 2 daughters, and there was 3 against 2, because I had my sainted mother living with us, my darling bride, and me. I've always said, I don't know how some of these single parents find the time. Just okay, one of my children wants to go to the library, the other has to go to soccer, or has to go here, has to do that, and
How do you balance it?
how do you balance it? And then how do I just find the energy?
Yeah.
You know, when I was coaching soccer, I was always amazed to see some of these single, and I'll be a bit sexist, mostly single mothers. I couldn't understand the depth of energy
It's
that they
exhausting.
had. You know, it shocked me because, I mean, I went home and I got my best friend there to give me a break.
I can tell you it's exhausting. I'm not a single parent specifically, but my husband is in the military, so he goes away occasionally. And I can tell you it's exhausting.
Well, because you're a single parent at that
'Cause
point.
you're a single parent then, and it's going from not being a 2-parent family to 1, and all of a sudden the world is a different place. And you have to find a balance. And sometimes that balance is pulling up a book on a tablet and saying, you go over there and read for 10 minutes while I go over there and sit in my chair, so that we
Let
can...
me just decompress.
Right. And honestly, I could still walk across the street, put her in the children's reading room with a book, and that's 10 minutes, hopefully. She has 4, so sometimes you only get a minute and a half. It really does depend on the day. But we have to figure out how to make that more accessible to single parents, how we can be conducive to them bringing their kids in. What can we do? Is there something we can do? You know, we need that feedback, I
Plus,
think.
I mean, you know, you mentioned socioeconomic, it's the homogenizer. You know, because when you think about it, a lot of the families who are just getting started don't necessarily have easy access to all the resources they should. And at the library, they do.
They do, right. It crosses every single border you can think of. You can be rich, poor, and in the middle. You can be black, brown, white, purple, green, orange, red. It doesn't really matter. You can walk into the library and check out a book, read a book, ask a question, use the computer, print something off. You can get tax help, you can get tech help. There is nothing that you can't do there. And that might not have been available to you if you had to pay for it out of your pocket. So you can, it sounds trite, but it makes the American dream possible because you have this amazing tool at your disposal.
Well, you know, also, when everybody sits together to listen to a book.
Make friends.
Yeah, I mean, there may be kids that you don't necessarily, you know, run into in your own neighborhood because they live across town or...
Well, and we don't have the town park anymore. I mean, back when we were kids, I mean, 4 is a little young, but we could... Your mother sent you out of the house at 9 a.m. and rang the bell for dinner.
I just read that somebody let their kids walk somewhere and they were...
They were nearly arrested and had their child, yeah. So, I mean...
My parents would have got... All the parents in the Heights. We got up in the morning, we walked from the Heights down to the school.
And there was a bell. Usually a mother had a bell, or there was one mother with the voice that could scream, or the street lights came on, whichever.
But we were out there...
All day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen anymore. So the only place your kid meets other children is play dates.
Yeah, but again, that's
School.
so structured.
It's so structured, so it's great to have something where you can put them in a room and they may meet somebody that's not in their gymnastics class or soccer team or at their school.
It's just so nice
it's
that
great.
you're sitting there saying, okay, kids, you can walk from Stacy across, and for that hour, you're a young adult.
Isn't it neat?
We're actually teaching you some respect and
Responsibility.
You know,
And we don't have to be afraid of where you're going. It's so important.
so where are you going to start when you get on the board?
I don't know. I think we need to figure out what is most important. Because, I mean, the biggest part is we have to be fiscally responsible. It's not like we can just start rolling out new things.
I thought Miss Sue said she had too much money and not enough to do.
Oh, good. I'll remind her of that.
She may have a difference of opinion.
I think she might say different, but you know, you have to be fiscally responsible. So you have to take things in stride. You have to decide what's most important. What is the first thing that the most people have asked for, and how do we make it happen within budget? Because that's important. You know, I can have a dream of building a new 6-story library across the street, but that's really not going to happen because...
Yeah, but then when you wake up, reality sets in.
Exactly. So, but it should also be a consensus. It shouldn't be me. It should be us. Again, left hand, right hand, somewhere in the middle. So maybe I think we need more technology help. Okay, well, where do we need it? How can we enact it? And how far do we want to go with it? You know, so it's really, I think it's part of being the board.
Well, the library has been out in front technology-wise. When you think of like the Mars system and everything.
Oh, it's fantastic.
You know, I mean, we can get just about any book we need, you know, for any research project or anything the kids need.
You can get any book. I mean, it doesn't have to be just that research. It can be, I want the latest book from Joe Smith and the dinosaurs. I don't know. It doesn't have to be research. It can be anything, which is
and we don't have to buy it as a town. We can actually share it.
That's the great part of our last library system is it's not just individual libraries. It's individual libraries working cooperatively with each other to make sure that resources are shared. And that's, I don't know that that's necessarily common in all the states, but thank God it is here. Because, I mean, I used it all the way through college, so poor little Mars system. I think I got my tax dollar worth on that just in college, but.
And someday, Miss Sue's dream of more parking places may come to fruition.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
I mean, you know, it's always so funny because you sit there and say, the good news is the library's really being used.
The bad news is,
The library's really, you know, we end up parking up and down the street.
but that seems to be a problem across Milford, no matter what, you know, traffic,
Middle school east, the biggest issue,
yeah,
parking.
Parking, you know, and handicapped accessible parking as well. I mean,
Which is
you have
true.
to take that into it would be wonderful if we had tons and tons of green land that was zoned properly and had the right drainage and was close by
And we had world peace.
and we had world peace and, you know,
Because they'll all
no
come about
hunger.
it'll all come about the same time.
We might get parking first.
It's more doable.
It's more doable. At least it's within our scope. So it's certainly not off the table, but
What would you say to people who ask you, the library, what's the strongest asset the library brings?
the strongest asset,
What is the strongest part of the library?
I think it's the whole thing. I think it's Sue. I think it's the whole library. We have a very unique we have a unique way of doing things in Milford, and it completely translates to our library. And you can walk in and you can get whatever you need, one way or another. And that hometown, small town, happy feeling is what is really, really important. And it's the biggest asset because you never are afraid to go in.
See, I think it's the people.
Yeah.
Like you say,
That's-
it's Sue, it's the environment, it's,
There's no one thing.
right.
It's the coagulation of all the factors that make it such a great place to go. I call it a cornerstone of our community. Really.
It always is. And I carry my library card still to this day.
I have mine in my little.
I always wonder, am I getting out of, am I supposed to have it electronically now or something?
I do. It's on my camera. I have the Overdrive app, so I can check out books 24/7. You think I'm ever going to leave it at home? Nope.
I still have my old library card. As always, get to know our town, and the people like Miss Jen who step up, stop and say thank you. Because there's too many people who say, it should be. If I had the ability, were you doing anything about it? Well, no. So the people who are going to step up, help our community be better, we want to say thank you. Go out to the library, especially parents. I can't tell you what memories I have. I can't tell you the warm feeling I think of sitting down with someone, reading a book.
Yep.
Sitting with my daughter, having half hour just to watch her enjoy. So, hope you'll get to see the library and use it. And as always, good night. May God bless, and may tomorrow be a better day than today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not too long since I've been home.